Good evening. I know it's a small room, so I could probably talk without the microphone, but the reason I'm using it is because we're also podcasting this evening, so we want to make sure that everything is synced up together. I'm Michelle Cousins. I'm Dean of the School of Business here at Kendall College. I recognize some of you from other workshops. Some of you are faculty, students, friends, but a number of you, I think, may have not been here before. So for those of you who have not, welcome to Kendall College, and for those of you who are returning, welcome back. If any of you would like a tour after the program tonight, I will be around because that's one of our very favorite things to do here is show off the great facility. I'm going to say a few words about the School of Business, and then we're going to launch right into our program tonight because I think that you're going to learn quite a bit from our speaker. So first of all, back in the 1990s, I read the Tom Peters book, The Brand of You, which some of you may have read as well, and it had a pretty powerful effect on me, and from that point forward, I was very conscious that we project a brand about ourselves. And not only do we project that brand, but then we can think about how we can leverage that in different ways. And so tonight you're going to hear about how self-publishing a book can help you market yourself in that respect. This ties in with a lot of what we do in the School of Business in terms of development, professionally, connecting with the business community, thinking about how we market ourselves as well as our businesses. So the School of Business has two programs. We have a Bachelor of Arts in Business, and we have a Bachelor of Arts in Food Service Management. And you may not be aware of the second program because it just launched this summer. So I did provide you with some materials, and you may say, well, I'm not exactly fresh out of high school. The good news is we have two versions of our programs. We have one that's a weekday, and then we also have a combined online program with 4 Saturdays. And so we do have a number of adult learners in our populations. Secondly, this is just one of the many workshops that we have here. If you're interested in finding out more information about our programs, our workshops, our advisory boards, you can go to Kendall's website. All of our advisory board members are listed, and several of the podcasts from previous workshops are there, along with slides as well. A couple of housekeeping items. In your folders, you have copies of the slides, and so feel free to use those to take notes throughout the evening. You also have an evaluation form, and that's very helpful to us because it helps us to understand what you'd like more of, what's a topic that you're particularly interested in, and also it provides a vehicle so that if you would like the speaker to follow up with you, that's another way that she can get in touch with you. We also have the sign-in sheets and the disclaimers, as I mentioned before, and there's a sheet if you need a cab. I will go ahead and coordinate that for you, so a cab is waiting for you later. Last but not least, this is how we're going to coordinate question and answer for the evening. Our speaker, who I'll introduce in a second, is going to have 2 parts to her presentation, and so she will go over some examples and some related information around branding, and then there'll be an opportunity to ask questions, and then after that she'll move into the self-publishing in particular, and there'll be another opportunity to ask questions. So again, we want to make sure that we get all the questions as part of the podcast, so we think that format will serve us well. So let me tell you a little bit about Maria Martinez. First of all, I met Maria probably a little over a year ago at a networking function, and got to know each other, and from there I was on the board of the Chicago Women in Publishing. If you have not heard of that organization, it's a great group for support, for leads, for information, and it's www.cwip.org. And yes, men can also attend, by the way. And so Maria and I started working together as part of the group, the Chicago Women in Publishing. And in those conversations, I realized that she was doing quite a bit around this concept of how do you brand and market yourself in relation to self-publishing. And I said, it'd be great if you could come and talk a little bit about how that has worked for you and what you did, and impart some pointers to people on that. So Maria is a multifaceted consumer and multicultural marketer. She has more than 25 years of experience in branding, consumer, retail, and financial services. She's managed branding programs, market research, product development, product management, CRM marketing programs and teams, as well as a number of program implementations. Her academic credentials are extremely high, and she has a master's degree from Northwestern. So she brings a lot of knowledge, talent, and business connections. And so without further ado, I would like to introduce Maria Martinez.
Thank you. Thank you, Michelle. Well, thank you very much, Michelle, and good evening to all of you. Thanks for coming. I am very happy to be here and have the opportunity to speak to you and have Kendall College invite me to speak. So can you hear me well? I have, is the mic working? Okay. What we discussed today was that my experience is mostly from a corporate world. I worked most of my career at Citigroup. And I did product management and product development and did a lot of branding for specific financial products. I also worked a little bit on retail in the Sears company and worked at the beginning of my career in advertising. Now I'm independent, and I do have a business that tries to work with people, and I've been trying to do it with individuals and maybe small firms to do marketing, branding, and the idea of self-publishing. I've actually worked with one person who needed help in that regard. I published one book, so I don't want to say here that I have done 10 books. I have not. But I am trying to share, I was going to speak about branding only, and then Michelle and I thought, well, it'd be nice to incorporate the idea of self-publishing, because a lot of people today, as I talk to people in different industries, they have said, you know, it's almost like you have to have a book to have credentials. And the book that I wrote is not really about my marketing or branding credentials, it's really a memoir. But I wanted to do it, and I learned a lot about self-publishing when I did it. So I figured that if I learned that, I could probably incorporate it into a branding presentation and share what I have learned. So I've spoken to a few people before we started, and I see some people were interested in self-publishing, how would other ideas to get that going. And maybe if you just raise your hands, most people are here for that or for the branding part. So how about self-publishing? So we have quite a bit of people interested in that. And then the branding part, okay, so half and half. All right, so we'll start with the branding concept first. And one of the things that I have learned because of my own experience is that there is a new frame of mind out there, and that you need to market and brand yourself. And it's not like most of us, or many of us, have worked in corporations, educational institutions, nonprofits, and some have their own businesses. And we all have to do that to one degree or another. And what I want to talk about today is concentrate on that part first, and then going to, if I use this, going to building your brand with a book. So we can take a break after we talk about how can you brand and market yourself, and then we'll go into the self-publishing. So we all know that jobs are disappearing. I certainly know that. But that's not really bad, because we all then have an opportunity to do something else with the experience that we have. And it's not just something that has happened in the late, couple of past years because the economy is not that good. But also, it's been going on for a while. In terms of the white-collar workers, the positions have really been changing. When I started my career, I remember that it was, sort of like you had to develop. You were going from this position to this position to this position, and sometimes you may not want to have a group of people reporting to you, but that was the only way in which you could advance in your career. I did like people reporting to me, but not big groups of people. I wanted small groups of people so that I could really have an interaction with them. And later, as I was working in the corporate world, I noticed that it was more like an independent contributor, and your knowledge was needed in different areas. So they almost decided to pull the talent in different ways, and it was sort of a lateral move. So if you were working with this group doing developing a campaign or doing a project, managing that project from beginning to end. Once you were done, that was it. Then they moved you to another area to do something else. My last position at Citigroup was in a group called Strategic, I was in a strategic marketing group, and I ended up doing like 3 projects that had nothing to do one with another, and they all used the experience that I had learned throughout my career. So it was sort of a sideways way of using your expertise. And that's going to be more and more the way, and people were working from home. It was completely different than before. If you were not present in the office, you were forgotten. And now you could work from home and no one forgets you. It's really, it's unbelievable, the changes. One of the things that I've learned about branding and marketing yourself, if you're independent or work in an institution, is you do have to work as if you were independent, even if you're working in an organization, because you are ultimately responsible for yourself. No one else is going to do it for you. No one is going to care. You may have a mentor, you may have friends, you may have people who work with you, who help you in some instances, but it's really up to you. It's really up to what you do, up to your ideas, and how you politically network through the organization. You have to market yourself and create your personal brand. I remember one of the things that I heard in the last few months that I worked in the corporation was that the HR person was telling us that you had to brand yourself. And I'm going like, oh, that's interesting. Yeah, and it could be as basic as being nice to people, saying hello to everybody, not just to the big bosses, the way you project yourself, the way that you deliver what you say you're going to deliver. So little things like that do help to create a brand. And again, I want to say that in corporations, if you don't have branding, you basically are a commodity. So I had products that I had to manage that the only thing that differentiated us from the competition was the pricing and the fact that we were from Citigroup. If we had not had the Citigroup name behind us, we may not have gotten the business because everything else was the same as a lot of our competitors. And a brand is emotion and perception, and again, what people think they're going to get from you or from your product or from your service.